Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. All right, so part two of Archie's collection review. All right, so let's talk about the Zenith. Now, as we know, Zenith made the first movements for the Rolex Daytona, so that Zenith Rolex connection is kind of interesting, and having Rolex's stamp of approval in that sense is a nice thing. It's a good thing, and Zenith also, I think, has the distinction of perhaps being the first company to make a chronograph. I'm a bit hazy on the history there. I'm not really into chronographs, but it's definitely a respected brand, and as far as chronographs go, if you're into chronographs, Zenith probably should be on your radar. If I were to sit next to somebody with a Zenith on their wrist, I would definitely think, okay, this is a person that knows their watches, and that person would probably garner my respect. I know I have a viewer and a friend, Maynard in Japan, who is interested in getting a Zenith as well. So, good watch. But let's talk about Archie's. So he has an open heart Zenith. Now, if I were going to go Zenith, I'd probably go the more traditional tri-colored subdial route. I remember seeing a Zenith booth at some department store, and they had quite a few of those open heart watches. And I think open heart watches work better with dress watches. I don't think they really work well on a tool watch, and I think a Zenith chronograph in steel should be viewed as a tool watch. I think the open heart aspect, I think it's a little gimmicky, and I think Archie probably should have gone with something more traditional, like the tri-colored subdials. But my guess is that he didn't really choose that watch. He probably got a good deal on it. Maybe he had a dealer friend that sold it to him. And I'm kind of surprised he hasn't sold it yet, but I have a feeling he's probably going to flip it in the future. Now, he's already got a much better chronograph, so I'm sort of surprised he has it and he's holding on to it. I think is probably one of the weakest links in his collection. I think Zenith is as good a reputation and as significant a horological contribution it has made, as a brand. I think they're kind of soft, and I think particularly that open heart version is. So I'm kind of surprised that he got it, and it doesn't seem sort of fitting for the Pontiff. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that one go soon, and I'm surprised we haven't seen it go yet. So that's sort of puzzling, but perhaps he likes it, and if so, I'm kind of surprised that he does. So yeah, I would say, again, it's a great watch, and I can't say anything against the brand or the watch, but as far as holding value, I think that's probably not the best piece to do so. And again, I suspect that he got a good deal on it, and that at some point he'll probably flip it. I'm really surprised that he went for the open heart over something more traditional. Maybe again, it was just kind of put in front of him. But I think if you are going to go Zenith, I would go something more traditional, and I think those tri-colored subdials, I think they're more tasteful than the open heart. Again, gimmicky. So weakest link in his collection, I would say, but still not a bad watch. All right, so let's move on to the Reverso. Now, Reversos, we used to hear a lot about Reversos a couple years ago. I know Simon Crane wanted one, and often people would be recommended by Archie to get a Reverso for that dress watch box. Archie used to, it was pretty clear what he was going to recommend. It was the dress watch, one dress watch, one GMT function watch, one chronograph, and one dive watch. And when he was talking the GMT, it was an Explorer 2. When he was talking the chronograph, it was a Speedmaster. When he was talking the dive watch, it was a Sub. And when he recommended the dress watch, it was always a Reverso. But he's sort of come off that and has become all about Rolex. And for that reason, it's just like I don't hear anybody talk about the Reverso anymore. So for me, it kind of feels like they've gone out of fashion. I just don't hear anybody talking about a Reverso. So, does anybody want a Reverso these days? I'd like to know. Does any of you guys watching this, would you guys like a Reverso? Now, look, I'm not much into dress watches. I like metal bracelets. I like watches that can get wet. And so for that reason, the aesthetic alone just really doesn't appeal to me when it comes to the Reverso. I like round watches. I don't like square or rectangular watches. I think there's something, I think a circle is sort of a symbol of eternity. And so I think it's sort of fitting that something that measures time should have that shape. And so I've always been much more into circular watches than weirdly shaped watches, whether it's Nautilus or a Reverso or a Monaco or anything like that. So the shape alone sort of turns me off, and there's a certain amount of thickness there that I don't think is appealing. But as far as Archie's Reverso goes, it's probably one of the better looking Reversos. I love the color. It's a steel one versus one of those gold Reversos, which are not bad, but I think the steel just looks a little bit better. It's got a beautiful guilloche on it and something like an 8-day power reserve, which is pretty amazing. And it's obviously quality, and it does fit the bill for a dress watch. Now, these days, dress watches are just sort of a thing of the past. I mean, here in Japan, you see people with suits on with anything from, Rolex to an Omega all the way down to a G-Shock. So I really don't think anybody needs to spend money on a dress watch. But, I gotta say, if you're wearing a suit and you do have something like a Patek or a Reverso, it looks a heck of a lot better than a G-Shock. So now Archie does have the Patek, and that's quite a dress watch right there. The Reverso is obviously a less expensive, probably watch that takes a little less bravery to wear. It's not $30,000 like his Patek. So if he does wear a suit, I can see keeping that because it's a little less stressful, a dress watch. Now, I'm going to hazard a guess that he got that for his 40th birthday in conjunction with his wife in some respect, because he has the back of the watch engraved. And so let's talk about that. Now, I think that a watch purchase is a very personal thing, and I think the relationship between a man and his watch is pretty sacred. And the idea of bringing a third party into it doesn't appeal to me. Some people have talked about, when you get your future wife her engagement ring, perhaps she should give you a luxury watch. And, that sounds great, and you would get a watch out of the deal. But your watch is going to be connected with a woman and with somebody other than yourself. And that's not something I think I would want. I think it's important to have just a one-to-one connection with your watch. No other third party involved. So as nice as it sounds for somebody to say, honey, I would love to buy you a watch, I would counsel against it. First of all, in the future, if you want to do something with that watch, it kind of makes it hard if the relationship goes south. It can poison your feelings towards the watch. But above all of that, it's just there's a sacred connection between a man and his watch, and I don't think it should be diluted by any sort of third party, be it a friend or a significant other or whatnot. Now, Archie is sort of married to that watch for that reason, and he can really never get out of it. And one other reason is because the back is engraved, and that's a mistake. All right, I don't think watches should be engraved, and I look at it sort of as defacing the watch, and it does devalue the watch. And I'm perhaps a romantic in some respects, but keeping the integrity of the timepiece, I think, is more important than a show of romantic love. So I wouldn't engrave a piece. I wouldn't want one engraved. Now, Archie is a bit of a flipper, so perhaps his wife pulled a Rolex retail move, and this is, by the way, urban legend. I don't know if there's actually retailers that do this, but with these hot models, sometimes I read that they require you to engrave it in some way, which is essentially to deface it so that you can't flip it when you walk out the door. Now, I don't know if there's actually places doing that. That seems kind of crazy to make that requirement of their customer. But who knows? Maybe Archie's wife took a page out of that book and thought, you're such a flipper. I'm just going to make sure you don't by putting something on it that you can't get off. Now, I've talked about Rolexes for my daughters, and I've often thought, would I engrave the watch? And whenever I think I would, I ask myself why, and I think the real reason is to screw up any chance they would have to flip it, to sort of force them to keep it by having my name and their name on it. And that's not a good reason. Look, I just think that a watch, look, I mean, it's your call, it's your watch, right? But I think that was a mistake to have any engraving on it, and I would counsel against that. And as romantic as it may seem in the moment, I just don't think it's a good idea. So I think that was a mistake. And if Archie were to go back in time, I wonder if he would have chosen, if he could go back in time, I wonder if he would choose the reversal. My guess is not. It's kind of a soft brand, I think, and I think he's onto Rolexes, and certainly I am. If you're into that aesthetic, I can see wanting to get one, but I don't think you're going to ever make your money back or break even. I think it's one of those many watch brands, and most watches are like this, right? Aside from Patek and Rolex, where you buy the watch, and as far as it making you money in the future, or you being able to get out of it without losing some money, Jaeger Culture is sort of one of those brands. So I have a feeling that perhaps if he had to do again, I don't know if he would have requested that watch from his wife, or however he came to get it, right? But if you ever do get a watch and you want to memorialize your love at that moment, as romantic as it may seem, I would not do it. All right, I would not do it. So that's Archie's watch, and he's gonna have it forever, whether he likes it or not. It's a fine watch, but again, it's I'd say a step up, or a degree better than, say, the Zenith, but I think it's one of the weaker pieces in his collection. And an old Reverso in 20 years, is anybody going to want to touch that? I don't think so. But again, it's a quality watch, and a lot of people say that it's it's a Patek quality watch for Rolex money. Personally, I would rather have a Rolex quality watch for Rolex money, but I'm a bit of a Rolex fanboy, as you know. So it's amazing that I can find anything nice to say about something that's not Rolex. So just be happy about that. Well, there we go. We're going to stop there, and in the next video, we're going to move on to my favorite part of his collection, his 5 Rolexes. All right, let me know what you think. Take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.